I'm bringing my 3-year-old sons into a building where 16 armed men could kill us before we reach the elevator. I have 45 minutes before Jin Taemin returns from the port. 45 minutes to position myself where his staff will react exactly as I need them to, with the respect I've earned over 4 years. So when he walks through that door, the first thing he sees is his entire organization bowing to the mother of his children. The lobby smells like expensive marble cleaner and gun oil. I know because I've stitched wounds in the back office 12 times, extracted bullets 7, pronounced 2 men dead. The receptionist's eyes widen when she sees me with the boys. Minho grips my right hand. Junho holds my left. Taeyang rides on my hip, his small fist tangled in my braids. "Dr. Chen Williams," she says, then notices what I'm noticing. The boys' faces. The same sharp jawline Jin has, the same deep-set eyes, the same serious expression even at 3 years old. Her hand moves toward the phone. "Don't." My voice stays calm, medical calm. The calm I used when a 17-year-old gang member bled out on my ER table while I tried to save him. "I need to see Hajun-si, now." She swallows, makes the call. If you were standing in a criminal organization's headquarters with 3 children who look exactly like the boss, knowing he doesn't know they exist, knowing his enemies would torture them for leverage, knowing his own code might demand eliminating the security risk you represent, what would you do? I had 4 years to plan this moment, and I'm still not sure if I chose survival or suicide. This is how I got here. The Korean Mafia boss found his staff bowing to a black woman and 3 boys with his face. 4 years earlier. The gunshot victim arrived at 2:47 a.m. No ID, no insurance, cash payment escort who vanished the moment orderlies took the gurney. Entrance wound in the right shoulder, exit wound suggesting the bullet fragmented. He stayed conscious through my initial exam, watching me with eyes that calculated 3 moves ahead, even while bleeding. "You're going to report this," he said. Not a question. His English carried a Korean accent softened by years in America. I pressed gauze against the wound. "I'm going to save your life. What you do with it after isn't my problem." "That's not how this works. I'm a nurse, not a cop." I met his gaze. "And you're going to pass out in approximately 90 seconds from blood loss, so save your energy for surviving surgery." He smiled before his eyes rolled back. I didn't report it. I also noticed 3 things. The tattoo on his ribcage was partially covered by newer ink, suggesting transition from one organization to another. The calluses on his hands showed knife training, not gun preference. And the man who'd escorted him wore a Patek Philippe watch worth 6 months of my rent while dressed like a driver. Details matter. My brother died because I ignored details, the new friends, the expensive shoes, the way he flinched when police cars passed. I told myself it wasn't my business until detectives showed me crime scene photos. I don't ignore details anymore. The patient returned 6 weeks later, not as a patient. He walked into the hospital coffee shop where I grabbed my post-shift espresso, sat across from me uninvited, and slid an envelope across the table. "Dr. Chen Williams." I'm a nurse. "You have a doctorate in nursing. That makes you a doctor." He left the envelope between us. "You saved my life. I pay my debts." "The hospital billed you." "The hospital didn't give me discretion. You did." He stood. "That's my private number. If you ever need protection, resources, or silence, call me. The debt won't expire." I opened the envelope after he left. $50,000 cash and a business card. Jin Taemin, TKO, Import/Export Consulting. I didn't call for 8 months. Then my brother's killer was released on a technicality. "Evidence mishandling," the prosecutor said, avoiding my eyes. I stood outside the courthouse watching Marcus Wright smile at his lawyer, and I thought about justice, about how the system failed, about the gun-shaped bulge under Wright's jacket as he climbed into a Mercedes. I thought about the business card in my apartment's junk drawer. That night, I called the number. Jin answered on the second ring. "I need information," I said, "about Marcus Wright, where he lives, who he works for, his routines. Why? He killed my brother. The courts let him walk." Silence stretched for 10 seconds. Come to this address tomorrow, 2 p.m. Come alone. If you're wearing a wire, you'll die before you reach the elevator." The address was a restaurant in Koreatown, closed for private event. 3 men searched me thoroughly, professionally, not sexually. They took my phone. Then they brought me upstairs to a private room where Jin sat at a low table, tea service arranged in front of him. "Sit." I sat. He poured tea with deliberate precision, handed me a cup. "You want revenge?" "I want information." "You want revenge," he repeated, "which means you're considering doing something that will end your career, possibly your life. I need to understand if you're thinking clearly." My 15-year-old brother was shot 9 times in a drive-by. I held his hand while he died on my hospital's ER floor. The man who ordered it is free. I'm thinking with perfect clarity. Jin studied me. Marcus Wright works for the East Side Kings. He's protected by their network, by corrupt police on their payroll, by lawyers who specialize in making evidence disappear. You can't touch him through official channels. I know. But you can through unofficial ones. I met his eyes. Can I? No. He sipped his tea. But I can. The question is what you're willing to pay. I have money. I don't need your money. He set down his cup. I need a doctor who understands discretion. My organization requires medical services that can't involve hospitals, records, or questions. You provide that, I'll provide Marcus Wright's location, security details, and the best time to make him vulnerable. You're asking me to become your personal trauma surgeon. I'm offering you justice in exchange for insurance. If you've ever had to choose between revenge and morality, between honoring the dead and preserving your own soul, you know the calculation isn't simple, but I'd already learned that following rules didn't guarantee justice. How vulnerable? I asked. Jin's smile was cold. Vulnerable enough that a nurse with steady hands and access to untraceable fentanyl could ensure he never wakes up from surgery. I became Jin Taemin's doctor that day. I became his lover 6 months later. The first month, I treated knife wounds, broken bones, 1 bullet graze. I set up a sterile room in the back of his Koreatown office, stocked it with supplies borrowed from the hospital, learned which men in his organization would follow instructions and which needed sedation to stay still. Jin visited every procedure, not because he didn't trust me, because he paid attention to everything his organization touched. "Jihoon needs stitches again," I said during my 4th visit, cleaning up after repairing a soldier's knife wound. 3rd time in 2 months. He's aggressive when he should be strategic. Jin looked up from his desk. "You're observing my men." "I'm observing patterns that affect their survival." I stripped off gloves. Jihoon escalates confrontations unnecessarily. That slash was from a bar fight he started. He's going to get himself killed. "What else do you observe?" I paused, recognizing a test. "Daniel Song watches you constantly. Not out of fear, he's checking in, the way medical staff monitors vitals. He's your actual second, not just head of security. Hajun handles money, but he drinks too much. His hands shake in the mornings. And the man who drove me here tonight is new because he took 6th Street instead of Olympic, which means he doesn't know the traffic patterns yet." Jin stood, walked to where I was packing supplies. "You're dangerously observant, Dr. Chen Williams." Maya. An observant keeps people alive. Maya. He said my name like he was testing its weight. "How did you learn to see so much?" "I learned what happens when you don't see enough." He understood. I could tell by the way his expression shifted, recognition of shared grief. Marcus Wright is in a warehouse on South Grand. Tonight, midnight to 3 a.m., only 2 guards. If something were to happen, a fire perhaps, response time is 12 minutes. I looked at him. "You're giving me this now? You've earned it. What you do with the information is your choice. But Maya..." His hand caught my wrist, not threatening, just certain. "If you kill him, you can't go back to your old life. That world won't forgive you. This one will." I didn't go to the warehouse. Instead, I called the ATF with an anonymous tip about illegal weapons stored at that location, along with detailed evidence I'd gathered from Wright's known associates. The raid happened 48 hours later. Wright went to federal prison on gun trafficking charges. 30 years, no parole, not death, but justice. I told Jin the next week. He listened, then nodded. You chose law over revenge. That's strategic. You're not angry? I'm impressed. You used me for leverage without becoming what you hate. That requires discipline. He poured whiskey, offered me a glass. But you keep coming back here. Why? You pay well. I pay well to many people. Most don't stay once they've gotten what they needed. I sipped the whiskey. Maybe I'm good at compartmentalizing. Or maybe you recognize that morality isn't about black and white. It's about choosing which shade of gray you can live with. He was close enough I could smell his cologne, expensive and cedar sharp. Close enough to notice the scar on his jaw, the precise way he moved, always calculated but never cold. Close enough to make a terrible decision. I kissed him. He kissed back. We both knew it was strategic suicide, doctor and patient, civilian and criminal, a connection that created vulnerability neither of us could afford. But intelligence and desire don't always align. And I'd spent 6 months watching him demonstrate a moral code more consistent than the legal system that failed my brother. 3 months later, I was pregnant. 6 months after that, I had 3 identical baby boys and a terrifying realization. Jin Taemin's world would consume them, his enemies would use them, his allies would manipulate them. His own code, bloodline above everything, would trap them in a life I'd worked my entire career to escape. So I disappeared. I told Jin I needed space, that our relationship was complicated by professional obligations, that I needed to focus on my career. All technically true. Then I moved to Riverside, took a hospital position an hour from LA, raised 3 boys who looked exactly like their father, and pretended I could keep them separate from his world forever. 4 years of pretending. 4 years of checking every shadow, memorizing every stranger's face, teaching my sons to be invisible in public. 4 years of taking freelance consulting calls from Jin's organization, traveling to LA once a month to handle medical emergencies, maintaining the professional relationship while hiding the personal consequence. 4 years of watching Minho develop Jin's strategic thinking, Junho inherit his observation skills, Taeyang demonstrate his father's protective instincts. It couldn't last. The first sign was subtle. A black SUV parked outside our Riverside apartment 3 days in a row. Different license plates each day, but the same model Jin's organization used. The second sign was Daniel Song calling my personal number, not the work line, asking about my family situation. The third sign was the bomb. I was loading the boys into my car for preschool when I noticed it. A slight displacement of my rear bumper, barely a millimeter, but wrong. I kneel, pretending to tie my shoe, and glimpse the device's edge. Minho tugs my sleeve. Mama, we'll be late. Change of plans. My voice stays steady. We're taking the bus today, adventure time. I hold their hands and walk 3 blocks before calling Jin. Someone put a bomb in my car. His silence lasts exactly 2 seconds. Where are you? Heading to the hospital. Jin, they know about me, which means I'm sending Daniel and 4 men. Stay visible, stay public. I'll handle this. This isn't your problem. You're mine to protect. That makes it my problem. The possessiveness should have bothered me. Instead, it felt like the only safety net I had. Daniel arrived 20 minutes later, scanned the hospital parking lot, positioned men at every entrance. He squatted to the boy's eye level, smiled gently. Hey, guys, I'm a friend of your mom's. We're going to make sure you stay safe, okay? Taeyang studied him with Jin's intensity. You have a gun. Daniel didn't lie. Yes, but I only use it to protect people I care about. Like Mama? Exactly like Mama. I should have noticed the way Daniel's hand shook slightly when he stood. Should have recognized that particular tremor, not fear, but stress from impossible choices. But I was focused on my children's safety, on the reality that someone had just tried to murder us. Jin arrived an hour later, striding through the hospital staff entrance like he owned it, Daniel and 2 others flanking him. He saw me first, scanned for injuries, then his gaze dropped to the 3 boys sitting in my office, coloring. His face didn't change, but I watched the calculation happen, their ages, their features, the mathematical impossibility of coincidence. Maya, private conversation, now. I told the boys I'd be right outside, then followed Jin into the hallway. He waited until we were in a stairwell, alone except for one guard at the door, before speaking. They're mine. Yes. For 4 years, you've been coming to my office, treating my men, standing 3 feet from me, and you didn't mention that I have 3 sons. I was protecting them. From what? His voice stayed level, but I heard the anger underneath. From their father? From the security I could provide? From their birthright? From this. I gestured to the guard, to the violence his world represented. I wanted them to have normal lives. Someone just tried to blow up your car with them inside. How's normal working out? The words hit like a physical blow because he was right. I'd kept them hidden, thinking obscurity meant safety. Instead, I just made them vulnerable. Who knows they exist? Jin asked. No one. I've been careful. Someone knows. Someone found you, connected you to me, and decided you were leverage. He moved closer, not threatening, but intense. Which means someone in my organization talked, or someone's been watching me for years and finally found the thread to pull. What do you want me to do? Come back to LA, bring the boys. Let me protect you properly. Bring them into your world. They're already in my world. His hand caught my chin, forced me to meet his eyes. You brought them into it the moment you called me 4 years ago. The only question is whether they're in it with protection or without it. If you've ever realized your attempt to save someone actually endangered them more, you understand the specific horror of good intentions leading to disaster. I thought I was being strategic. Instead, I'd been naive. Okay, I said. But Jin, they can't know you're their father. Not yet. They're 3. They don't understand. They'll understand that I'm someone who keeps them safe. The rest we'll handle when they're old enough. He released me, pulled out his phone. Daniel will bring you to the Koreatown office. You'll stay in the apartment upstairs until I've eliminated the threat. What apartment? The one I'm buying right now. That was quintessential Jin Taemin, presented with the existence of 3 secret sons and an immediate threat. He solved the logistics before addressing the emotions. We arrived at TKO Import/Export at 1:15 p.m. I'd been here dozens of times for medical calls, but always through the back entrance. Walking through the front lobby with 3 toddlers felt like crossing into another dimension. The receptionist's eyes widened. The guard by the elevator straightened. Somewhere on the 3rd floor, I knew Jin was in his afternoon meeting with importers from Seoul, which meant I had maybe 30 minutes before he returned and what? Introduced the boys to his entire organization, pretended they were a colleague's children, acknowledged paternity. Daniel led us upstairs, past the executive offices where Hajun handled accounting, past the conference room where strategy meetings happened, to a door I'd never noticed. He unlocked it, revealing a fully furnished 2-bedroom apartment. Sajangnim had this prepared last year, Daniel said, after you mentioned wanting somewhere safe to rest between emergency calls. Jin had prepared a safe house for me a year ago, which meant he'd known, or suspected, that I might need protection, eventually. The boys explored cautiously, overwhelmed by the sudden change. Taeyang climbed into my lap. Mama, why do we have to hide? We're not hiding, baby. We're just somewhere safer while some grown-up problems get fixed. Bad people problems? Yes. Is that man with the nice watch going to fix them? I blinked. What man? The one who looks like us, in the picture. Taeyang pointed to the hallway where a framed photograph showed Jin at a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a community center his organization funded. Junho appeared at my elbow, studying the photo. He does look like us. Same face. Minho, the strategic thinker, put it together immediately. Is he our dad? 3 years old and already too observant. Jin's genetics at work. That's complicated, I said. Yes or no, Mama? I looked at Daniel, who suddenly seemed very interested in his phone. No help there. Yes, I said. That's your father. His name is Jin Taemin. He's a businessman who helps people, but his work is sometimes dangerous. I kept you away because I wanted you safe, but now we need his help to stay safe. Do you understand?" "Does he know about us?" Minho asked. "He just found out today." "Is he mad?" "I don't think so, but he's processing." Processing turned out to be an understatement. Jin returned at 2 p.m., walked directly to the apartment, and stood in the doorway studying his sons with the same analytical intensity he applied to business negotiations. The boys stared back. 4 identical faces, different ages, same bone structure, same expression of mutual assessment. Jin crouched slowly, bringing himself to their eye level. "I'm Jin Taemin. Your mother has told you who I am?" Minho, always the spokesperson, nodded. "You're our dad. You didn't know about us because Mama was protecting us. But now there's danger, so we're here. Your mother is a very intelligent woman. Are you mad at her?" "I'm disappointed she didn't trust me sooner, but I understand why she made that choice." Junho stepped forward. "Daniel has a gun. Do you have a gun?" "Yes." "Will you use it to protect us?" "Yes." "Okay, can we see your office?" And just like that, my sons accepted their father with the adaptability only 3-year-olds possess. Jin looked at me over their heads, his expression unreadable. "We'll talk later. First, I need to find out who's trying to kill you." The investigation took 6 hours. Jin's network pulled traffic camera footage from my Riverside neighborhood, ran facial recognition on everyone who'd been near my apartment building, cross-referenced with rival organizations and known threats. Meanwhile, I stayed in the apartment with the boys, playing cars and pretending this was a normal afternoon instead of the day our lives permanently changed. Daniel checked in every hour, bringing food, confirming security rotations. On his 4th visit, I noticed his phone buzzing repeatedly. Texts he silenced quickly, but not before I glimpsed the contact name, unknown. Strange. Daniel was meticulous about labeling contacts. I'd seen his phone during medical procedures. Every number had a full name and context note. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Fine. Just coordinating perimeter security." He smiled, but his jaw was tight. I filed the observation away. Jin returned at 8 p.m., after the boys had fallen asleep in the apartment's 2nd bedroom. 3 identical faces on one big mattress, Taeyang's arm across Junho's chest, Minho's hand clutching his brother's shirt. Jin stood in the doorway for a long moment, just watching them. "I have 3 sons, he said quietly. "Yes. For 4 years, I've had 3 sons, and I didn't know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Explain." He turned to face me. "What calculation did you make that resulted in hiding them?" I met his eyes. "You told me once that bloodline is everything to you. That family is your priority above all else. I watched you eliminate a man who betrayed his own brother. I've stitched wounds on soldiers who've been with you since you were 17. Your world is blood and loyalty and violence, and I didn't want that for them. So you chose to raise them alone. I chose to give them options. If they'd grown up knowing you, they would have been part of your organization from birth. This way they can choose. No one gets to choose their blood. But they can choose whether it defines them." Jin exhaled slowly. "The bomb was placed by Kim Tae-shik's crew. You know who that is? Your rival in the smuggling trade?" "Former rival. I absorbed his territory 8 months ago. He's been trying to rebuild leverage." Jin pulled up photos on his phone, surveillance images of men near my car. "He found you through hospital records. You're listed as TKO Import/Exports on-call medical consultant. He assumed you were a vulnerability." He's right. He was right. Past tense. I eliminated his operations tonight. He's got 48 hours to leave Los Angeles, or I'll eliminate him personally. The casual efficiency of violence in his world still startled me sometimes. Just like that? He threatened my family. There's no negotiation after that. Jin sat beside me on the couch. Close enough I felt his body heat. "You can't go back to Riverside. Your apartment isn't safe. Your hospital knows your connection to me. And now that Kim knows about the boys, other enemies will start looking too. So, we stay here. Permanently. You work exclusively for my organization. Better pay, safer environment, full security. The boys grow up protected. Grow up surrounded by criminals. Grow up surrounded by family who would die for them. He turned to face me fully. I know what you're worried about. That they'll become like me. That they'll lose the choice you wanted them to have. But Maya, they're already like me. I watched Minho strategize his brother's approach to meeting me. I saw Junho evaluate Daniel's trustworthiness in 30 seconds. Taeyang has my protective instincts. You didn't create those traits. Genetics did. He was right, and I hated it. What do you want? I asked. I want my sons safe. I want you safe. I want the last 4 years back so I could have protected you from the beginning. His hand found mine. I want to know why you kissed me that first time, and why you left, and whether you've spent the last 4 years missing me the way I've missed you. Jin, answer the question. Yes. The admission felt like stepping off a cliff. I missed you. I thought about calling you every time one of them did something that reminded me of you. Every time I had to make a medical decision alone. Every time they asked where their father was and I had to lie. Then stop lying. Stay. Let me be their father. Let me... He hesitated. And in that hesitation, I saw the vulnerability he never showed his organization. Let me try to be what you need. If you've ever had to choose between safety and freedom, between protection and independence, you understand the calculation isn't simple. But I'd already learned that my independence had left my children vulnerable. Okay, I said, we'll stay. But Jin, I need you to understand something. I won't raise them to believe violence is the answer to every problem. I won't let them grow up thinking power comes from fear. If we're doing this, we're doing it my way too, not just yours. Negotiating terms with me, Dr. Chen Williams? Yes. He smiled. Genuine warmth, not the calculated version he showed subordinates. I'll agree to your terms on one condition. What? You tell me their names. I've been calling them the boys in my head for 6 hours. I laughed despite everything. Minho, Junho, and Taeyang. I chose Korean names because I wanted them to know that part of their heritage, even if they didn't know you. Minho, Junho, Taeyang. He tested each name carefully. Which one is which? Minho is the strategic one. Always planning, always thinking 3 steps ahead. Junho is the observer. He notices everything, processes quietly. Taeyang is the protector. He's the one who puts himself between his brothers and anything he perceives as threatening. They're me at different angles. Yes? Jin stood, pulled me up with him. Then I'll teach them what I know, and you'll teach them what you know, and maybe together we'll raise sons who are smarter than both of us. He kissed me then. Not the desperate passion of 4 years ago, but something steadier, more certain. A promise, instead of a question. I kissed him back and tried not to think about the violence his protection would require, the lives he'd ended tonight to secure our safety, the world I was permanently entering by accepting his help. 2 weeks later, living above Jin's office meant witnessing his world in detail I'd previously avoided. I watched morning meetings where shipment schedules were discussed in careful euphemism. I treated injuries that arrived at midnight, no questions asked. I learned which restaurants served as neutral meeting territory, which bars were owned by allies, which streets belonged to rivals. The boys adapted with frightening ease. Minho memorized the organizational hierarchy within 3 days. Junho started identifying people by their shoes before he saw their faces, a skill Jin praised as tactically valuable. Taeyang appointed himself my personal bodyguard, refusing to let me go anywhere without checking the hallway first. Jin carved time from his schedule every evening. Dinner with the boys, stories before bed, teaching them Korean words they repeated with perfect accent. He was patient in ways I hadn't expected, strategic in ways I should have anticipated. They need to understand respect, he said one night after putting them to bed. Hierarchy, protocol, who to trust. They're 3. Old enough to learn foundation principles. He poured whiskey for both of us. Minho asked me today if Daniel was trustworthy. What did you tell him? that Daniel has been with me for 8 years, that he's saved my life twice, and that trust is earned through consistent action. Jin sipped his drink. But it made me think, why would Minho ask that question? Because Junho said Daniel seems nervous lately. Jin went very still. Nervous how? I don't know. Junho just notices things. He told me last week that Daniel's watch is new, but he still checks his old watch tan line, and that he gets a lot of texts he doesn't answer in front of other people. You notice this too? I noticed the texts. I didn't make the connection about the watch. Jin set down his glass, pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. I'm having Daniel surveilled. If there's something wrong, I need to know. You'd suspect your head of security on a 3-year-old's observation? I'd suspect anyone if the evidence suggests it. That's how I've stayed alive. He looked at me seriously. You and the boys see details I miss because you're not embedded in the daily patterns. That's valuable. Don't dismiss what they notice. 3 days later, Junho proved his value definitively. I was in Jin's office reviewing medical supply orders when Junho appeared at my elbow, silent as always. Mama, the man with the blue car is here again. What blue car, baby? The one that's been parked across the street 3 times. Same man, different car today. He's watching the building. Jin crossed to the window immediately. Show me. Junho pointed to a sedan parked illegally in a loading zone. That one. The driver has a camera. He took pictures when the delivery truck arrived. Jin made a call. Hyungnim, blue sedan, loading zone across from main entrance. Run the plates, get me facial recognition, and have someone pick him up for questioning. 20 minutes later, they had answers. The man was a private investigator hired by Marcus Wright's family to gather evidence on Jin's organization. Somehow, they'd connected me to Jin, and they were building a case to leverage my medical license as proof of criminal conspiracy. They're going to threaten you, Jin said. Expose your involvement here. Destroy your career. Use you to get to me. So what do I do? Let me handle it. Jin, I'm not going to kill them. He saw my expression and almost smiled. I'm going to buy them. Wright's family wants money, not justice. They'll take a settlement and sign an NDA. Problem solved. And if they don't? Then I'll make their investigator disappear, and they'll understand the cost of pushing further. The casual threat should have terrified me. Instead, I just felt exhausted by the constant weight of his world, the violence always one option away, the leverage always calculated, the solutions always ruthless. But Junho had spotted the threat before it materialized. His observation skill had potentially saved my career, maybe my life. I need to teach him boundaries, I said. He can't spend his whole childhood watching for danger. Why not? I did. And look how you turned out. Jin raised an eyebrow. Successful, wealthy, protected? Alone until 3 weeks ago. The words landed heavier than I'd intended. Jin's expression shifted, recognition of the cost his life demanded, the isolation that came with constant vigilance. I don't want that for them, I said quietly. I want them to trust people, to have friends, to live without calculating threats constantly. Then we'll balance it. You teach them trust, I'll teach them caution. Together, maybe they'll learn wisdom. It was the most hopeful thing I'd heard him say. 3 weeks after arrival, the boy's 4th birthday approached, and Jin insisted on throwing a party. Not the private celebration I'd planned, but a full event with his inner circle, their families, and what he called appropriate recognition of my sons. You're introducing them formally, I said. I'm making it known that they're under my protection, that anyone who threatens them threatens me directly. They're 4 years old. Which is exactly why everyone needs to understand the consequences of harming them. The party was held at a Korean restaurant Jin owned, the private room filled with men I'd treated, women I'd met briefly, children I didn't know. The boys were overwhelmed but adaptable, accepting gifts with careful politeness Jin had coached them on. 2 hands when receiving, he'd taught them. Make eye contact, say, Gamsahamnida. Show respect even to those younger than you. I watched Minho implement the lessons perfectly. Junho observe everyone with analytical intensity. Taeyang hover near me protectively. 4 years old and already navigating Jin's world with ease. Daniel arrived late, apologized to Jin, handed the boys elaborately wrapped gifts. He looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes, weight loss visible in his face, that same tremor in his hands when he set down his drink. "Daniel, are you okay?" I asked quietly. "Fine, just tired. Security's been tight with the boys here." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "A lot of extra shifts. You should take time off. After the Kim situation is fully resolved, can't risk gaps in coverage right now." It made sense. It also felt wrong. I found Jin later, pulled him aside. "Daniel's not okay. Something's going on. My surveillance hasn't found anything unusual. Then the surveillance isn't looking at the right things." I detailed what I'd observed. The weight loss, the tremors, the exhaustion that went beyond normal overwork. As a medical professional, I'm telling you something is seriously wrong. You think he's sick? I think he's under extreme stress, the kind that comes from impossible choices. Jin's expression darkened. You think he's compromised? I think you need to find out. The truth came 48 hours later. Jin's people traced Daniel's phone records, his financial transactions, his movements over the past 3 months. The pattern was unmistakable. Daniel had been meeting with representatives from the West Side Dragons, the organization currently pressuring Jin's territory from the south. But the meetings weren't about betrayal. They were about leverage. The Dragons had kidnapped Daniel's 18-year-old daughter 8 weeks ago. They were holding her hostage, forcing Daniel to provide information on Jin's operations, security protocols, and most critically, the location and routines of Jin's newly discovered family. Daniel hadn't betrayed Jin for money or ambition. He'd been forced to choose between loyalty and his child's life. Jin called a meeting in his office, just him, me, Daniel, and Hajun as witness. Daniel arrived knowing he'd been discovered. His face was resigned, already accepting the death Jin's code demanded for betrayal. "You've been feeding information to the Dragons," Jin said. No question, just statement. "Yes, Sajongnim." "For how long?" 8 weeks. "Why?" Daniel's voice broke. "They have my daughter, Mina. They took her from her college campus and they said if I didn't cooperate, they'd send her back to me in pieces." Silence filled the room. I watched Jin process the betrayal, the motivation, the impossible choice his code forced him to make. "You should have told me," Jin said. "I couldn't risk it. They said if I warned you, if I tried to get help, she'd die immediately. I thought—" Daniel's hands shook. "I thought if I could give them enough low-level information, keep them satisfied while I figured out where they were holding her." "You've been investigating on your own." "Yes." "Did you find her?" "I think she's in a warehouse in Long Beach. But I can't be sure, and I can't move against them without confirmation, and every day I wait is another day she's—" He stopped, composed himself. "I know what I've done. I know your code. I'm not asking for mercy for myself, but please, Sajongnim, before you kill me, help me get Mina back. She's 18. She's innocent. She doesn't deserve to die because her father worked for you." I watched Jin's face, saw the calculation happen. His code was absolute. Betrayal equals death. But Daniel's motivation was identical to Jin's own core principle: protect family above all else. "You've been with me 8 years, Jin said. "Yes." "You've saved my life twice." "Yes." "You've earned loyalty, trust, and respect." Jin leaned back in his chair. "And then you betrayed that to save your daughter." "I did." "Which means you understand that I would do exactly the same thing in your position." Daniel's head snapped up, hope and confusion warring in his expression. Jin continued, "I pay my debts. I protect what's mine, and betrayal is death. Unless the betrayal stems from protecting family, in which case it's not betrayal, it's priority alignment." He stood. "We're going to get Mina back. Then we're going to eliminate the dragons for putting you in this position. And then you're going to spend the next 8 years proving that this organization is your family too, and that you'll never hide threats from me again. Sajangnim, Daniel's voice broke completely. Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it because the dragons threatened one of mine by proxy, and that requires response. Jin looked at me. Maya will need medical support. If Mina's been held 8 weeks, she'll need immediate care. I'll prepare everything. Hajun, pull our West Side contacts. I want the exact location of that warehouse confirmed. Guard rotations, entry points, everything. We move tomorrow night. The rescue operation took 4 hours. Jin's team hit the warehouse with overwhelming force. 12 men coordinated assault, surgical precision. They extracted Mina alive but injured, brought her directly to the medical room I'd prepared. I spent 3 hours treating dehydration, malnutrition, and evidence of abuse. I documented carefully for Daniel's need to understand what had happened to his daughter. She'd survived. Barely. Daniel stayed at her bedside, holding her hand, whispering apologies and promises she was too exhausted to fully process. Jin watched from the doorway, then turned to me. This is why I need people to tell me when there are threats. Daniel tried to handle it alone and almost lost her. If he'd told me immediately, we could have moved 8 weeks ago. He was terrified you'd kill him before helping her. My code isn't that rigid. Isn't it? Jin considered. My code is this: loyalty above all, family above everything. Betrayal is unforgivable. But protecting family isn't betrayal. It's the core of everything else. Daniel should have trusted that. You've killed people for less. I've killed people who betrayed me for money, for power, for cowardice, not for protecting their children. He moved closer, voice lowering. You hid my sons for 4 years because you were protecting them. I was angry, but I didn't punish you because I understood the choice. You also had leverage. I came back. You came back because someone tried to kill you and you knew I'd protect you. That's not leverage. That's trust. His hand found mine. I need you to trust that I won't hurt the people you care about, that my violence has rules and those rules matter. If you've ever tried to reconcile caring for someone with condemning their actions, you understand the cognitive dissonance. Jin was a criminal. He'd killed people, destroyed lives, built an empire on violence and fear. But he was also a man who'd just saved a teenager because his code valued family above revenge. Morality isn't simple. That's what 4 years in his world had taught me. I trust you, I said, but I also know what you're capable of, and that terrifies me for our sons. Good. Fear keeps you careful. Careful keeps you alive. He squeezed my hand. But Maya, I need you to understand something. The life I live, the organization I run, the violence I'm capable of, it's all in service of making sure the people I care about never have to live this way. My sons will have choices I never had, because I'm building something that will let them walk away if they want to. And if they don't want to walk away, then I'll teach them to be smarter, stronger, and more strategic than I am, so they survive longer. It was the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. Present day, 5 weeks after arrival. The dragons retaliated 3 days after Mina's rescue. They hit one of Jin's import warehouses, destroyed 2 shipments worth $500,000, left a message spray-painted on the wall, "Your family next." Jin's response was immediate and surgical. Within 48 hours, the Dragon's leadership was arrested on federal charges Jin's law enforcement contacts had been building for months. Their operations collapsed, their territory was absorbed by Jin's allies, and their threat was neutralized. But the message had been clear. My sons were targets, visible, vulnerable, and valuable as leverage against Jin, which brought us to this morning's decision. I'm taking them to the office today, I told Jin over breakfast. The boys were still asleep, giving us rare privacy. All 3 of them. I'm tired of hiding upstairs. If they're going to grow up in your world, they need to be visible in it. Protected, but present. Jin studied me. You're sure? No, but I'm done pretending we can keep them separate from your organization. They're your sons. Your people should know them, recognize them, understand that they're under protection. It's a risk. Everything is a risk. At least this way, we control the narrative. Jin nodded slowly. Then we do it properly. I'll have key people at the office today. Hajun, Daniel, section heads, trusted soldiers. You walk in with the boys, we make introductions. Everyone understands the hierarchy. What hierarchy? That you're not just my doctor or the mother of my children. You're my partner, which means you're protected at the same level I am, and anyone who threatens you or our sons answers to me directly. Partner. Yes. He met my eyes. Unless you have a different term you'd prefer. Partner works. So at 10:30 a.m., I walked through the front lobby of TKO Import/Export with 3 boys holding my hands and riding my hip. The receptionist saw us first, her eyes going wide. Then the guard by the elevator noticed, straightening immediately. By the time we reached the 3rd floor, Jin's inner circle was assembled in the main conference room. 8 men who'd built this organization alongside him, their families waiting in the background, and Jin standing at the head of the table. The boys gripped my hands tighter. Taiyang whispered, "Mama, there's a lot of people." "I know, baby, but they're here to meet you, because you're important." We entered the conference room. Jin nodded to me, then to his people. "I'm sure you've all heard rumors over the past 5 weeks," he said, "about changes in my household, about new security protocols, about why Daniel needed emergency resources for a family situation. Today I'm clarifying the reality." He gestured to me and the boys. "This is Dr. Maya Chen Williams, who many of you know as our medical consultant. She's also the mother of my 3 sons, Minho, Junho, and Taiyang. They're 4 years old, and as of 5 weeks ago, they're living under my protection permanently." The room stayed silent, everyone processing. Jin continued, "Which means several things. First, Dr. Chen Williams is not just an employee. She's my partner, and she has authority equal to Hajun in organizational decisions. Second, my sons are off limits to any threats, observations, or discussions outside this organization. Anyone who compromises their safety will answer to me directly. Third," he crossed to us, crouched beside the boys so he was at their eye level, then looked back at his assembled people. "They're the future of this family, which means you'll treat them with the same respect you show me. Understood?" 8 voices. "Yes," said Jangnim, and then, without prompting, every person in that room bowed. Deep, respectful, sustained. The formal bow reserved for family, for blood, for hierarchy that mattered. I felt tears sting my eyes because I understood what Jin had just done. He'd claimed us publicly, irrevocably, made us central to his organization, not hidden attachments. Given our sons protection that couldn't be stripped away by my absence or his death, written them into the organization's foundation. The boys watched the bowing with wide eyes. Then Junho whispered, "Mama, why are they bowing?" "Because," I said quietly, "they're showing respect. To you, to your brothers, and to your father." "Because we're family now?" Taiyang asked. "Yes, baby, because you're family now." Jin stood, offered me his hand, and I took it. Together, we faced his organization, the criminals and soldiers and strategists who'd built an empire, with our 3 sons between us. And I realized that I'd spent 4 years trying to give my children a choice about their identity. But the truth was simpler. They were Jin Taemin's sons. That would always be true, whether I hid them or not. The only choice was whether they understood that identity as a burden or a foundation. So I chose foundation. I chose to let Jin teach them strategy, honor, and protection. I chose to teach them compassion, ethics, and choice. I chose to trust that together we could raise sons who were more than the sum of our genetics and circumstances. As the meeting dispersed and Jin's people approached to meet the boys formally, kind voices, gentle questions, careful respect, I caught Daniel's eye across the room. He nodded once, understanding passing between us. We'd both made impossible choices to protect our children. The difference was I'd finally stopped trying to do it alone. Jin's hand squeezed mine. You okay? Ask me in 18 years when they're graduating college and choosing careers that have nothing to do with smuggling and violence. You think they'll choose differently? I think we'll give them the option. That's all I wanted. Minho tugged Jin's sleeve. Appa, can we see your office now? Jin. Appa now, father, the Korean term the boys had adopted naturally, smiled. Yes, but first, there's something I want to show you. He led us to his private office, to the wall where photographs hung showing TKO import/exports history. And there, already mounted, was a new photo, me and the boys, taken yesterday by a photographer I hadn't noticed. 4 faces smiling, my arms around all 3 sons, captured in a moment of unguarded happiness. Jin had hung it at the center of his organization's visual history. So everyone knows, he said, this is what matters. This is what I'm building for. If you've ever had to reconcile the person you wanted to be with, the choices you've actually made, you understand it's not about perfection. It's about living with the consequences and trying to make them mean something. I chose Jin's protection. I chose his world. I chose to let my sons grow up surrounded by violence, with a father whose hands were stained with blood in an organization built on crime. But I also chose to stay visible in their lives, to teach them alternatives, to show them that intelligence and observation and strategy could serve purposes beyond survival. I chose to trust that Jin's code, loyalty, family, honor within hierarchy, could coexist with my ethics. Maybe I was naive. Maybe I was compromised. Maybe in 15 years my sons would resent me for choosing this path. But today, watching them explore their father's office with wonder and caution balanced perfectly, I thought maybe, just maybe, we'd find a way to make this impossible situation work. Jin caught my waist as I moved toward the boys. Thank you. For what? For trusting me with them, for coming back, for giving me a chance to be more than what I was. You're welcome, but Jin... I met his eyes seriously. If you ever make me regret this choice, if you ever put them in danger through negligence or ego or carelessness, I will destroy you. Medical knowledge works both ways. He laughed, genuine, surprised, delighted. Threatening me, Dr. Chen Williams? Warning you, Mr. Jin, there's a difference. I love you, he said. Simply, certainly, without calculation. I know. That's why I'm still here. The boys called us over to examine the security monitors showing every angle of the building. Junho was already identifying camera blind spots. Minho was asking about shift rotations. Taiyang wanted to know where the weapons were stored so he could protect Mama better. 4 years old and already becoming their father's sons. I sighed, squeezed Jin's hand, and went to explain to my children that they didn't need to learn weapons handling for at least another decade. Jin followed, smiling, and I knew he was already planning their training schedule. This was my life now, balancing ethics and violence, protection and exposure, giving my sons choices while teaching them survival. It wasn't what I'd planned 4 years ago when I held 3 newborns and vowed to keep them away from their father's world. But plans change. People change. Circumstances force adaptation. And sometimes, the only way to protect what you love is to bring it into the danger and trust that you're strong enough, together, to keep it safe. If you've ever had to make an impossible choice between competing goods, tell me what you'd do. Would you have hidden the children and hoped obscurity meant safety? Or brought them into visibility and gambled on protection? Because after 5 weeks in Jin's world, I'm still not sure I made the right call. But I made the only call I could live with. And now I'm living with the consequences. Tomorrow, Jin has meetings with his soul contacts. Next week, there's a territorial negotiation with the East Side families. Next month, Minho starts kindergarten at a private school where half the children have parents in similar organizations. The danger never stops. The calculations never end. The observation skills I taught myself to honor my dead brother now serve to protect my living sons. And Jin Taemin, criminal, strategist, father, watches over all of us with the same intensity he applies to every aspect of his world. I don't know if we'll survive this. I don't know if my sons will thank me or condemn me when they're old enough to understand what I've chosen. But I know I'm not facing it alone anymore, and sometimes that's enough.